Hello. We'll start in about 5 minutes. You just wait for the rest of them to come in, and then I'll send you the link for today's class. Okay, I think we'll just wait for another 2 minutes. And also, do you have any doubts with the RC section of the last mock paper? Any particular question you can ask me. We'll probably solve it towards the end of the class. We'll first finish today's paper. Okay, I think we'll start in 2 minutes. We still have people coming in. And if you have any doubts with the CLAT mock paper, please let me know. Any particular question? Okay, I think we'll start now. I'll send you the link for today's class. Okay, we have just one more, just a moment. We'll just wait. So you're all unmute and okay. So I think we'll start now. So that's the link. You can download the file and we can start. So please start with the first question. Please take 6 minutes. It's now 4:04. We'll start at 4:10. If you can't access the file, please send me an email. It's sessionpassport@gmail.com. Okay, start with the first question. At 4:11, we'll start discussing the first question. For the new joinee, here's the link for today's class. Please find the link and start with the first question. Okay, I think
Excuse me, sir.
yeah.
It mentions in the first question that it has been marked.
Yeah, it's not red as opposed. I think it is underlined. I think I use a different software. I think there you can see it seems an unlikely amenity.
Okay.
So there, I think now, I think on my screen now you can see it's marked in red.
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm sorry. I think I used LibreOffice, and I think that's a doc, so it doesn't get transferred. I'm sorry.
you. Yes, it's okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I think there's another mistake. I think here this line has been repeated twice, right? One stood squarely in the angle of the plot, two wall flush with water. And then I think I repeated that line. I'm sorry, I think I typed that wrong. Just delete that. Yeah, so this part
Sure,
of
sir.
it.
I
I'm
got it.
sorry. I'm very sorry about that. Also, here that should be how misleading. I typed that from a book, so how misleading. Okay, I think we have a new joinee, and I think we'll again provide you with a link for today's class. Please use that link to access the file and start with the first question. Okay, I think we'll start in 2 minutes, and we'll see if we can, just to give you some more time. There's one more correction: is how misleading can first impressions be? It should have been that. There's a mistake there, and also two Americans, not two American. So I typed that in, so I think I made a mistake. So just make that correction. How misleading can first impressions be? It's not oh misleading be can first impressions be, and then also here it's two Americans, not too American. They are mistakes that I made while typing it down.
So,
Yeah.
so also in the previous line, is it quaintness, blah blah, given to him and not given him? Because it says,
That is just a formal way of putting it. Here,
oh,
right? Given him,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, given him. I think that I think it's called an ellipsis of the preposition to. We normally say
okay,
given to him, but
yeah,
given him is an old-fashioned way of putting it. It's not wrong.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. You'll also find people saying things like, "My house is opposite opposite the hotel," not opposite to the hotel. Even that is an old-fashioned way of putting it. My house is opposite the hotel. It's not very frequently used now, but it's not wrong. Okay, so I think we've had a lot of time. It's quite a hard passage. And have you all understood the passage? What's going on here? So before we start going to the questions, and I think, like I said, before you start the passage, just go through the questions. Just spend less than a minute, maybe 30 seconds or 20 seconds going through the question. So here they talk about the pronoun it. So then you know that the it is here and you know what to make of that when you read it. And then they talk about in which Indian city. I think that's not very hard. That's not very hard. And which of the following statement is or are true? Assume that the offer has stayed. Again, that needs some analysis. Why does Mr. Bhatt say before flush? Again, we don't know. So in the beginning, they say that hotel livered and prop the flush system MS Bhatt. And then they say the sign came later, right? So it's quite tricky. What sign came what later? So the sign refers to this. It came later. What later? Almost at the end of our stay. So when they say later, it means that it wasn't there when they had gone there, when they had visited the hotel, when they had gone and checked in to the hotel, right? It came later. That's what it means. That's what the statement the sign came later means. And I'm an honest man and all that. And then they talk about Mr. Butt and they talk about the flushing system. And then in the next paragraph, they talk about, they describe the hotel. They talk about the physical appearance, how rickety it was, how it was two-storied and all that sort of thing. And then they move on to how it was when they'd first gone there, their first meeting with Mr. Bhatt. See our first glimpse of Mr. Bhatt, how he cautiously approached the landing stage to welcome them, and then his appearance, and then his friend Aziz is mentioned, and then they talk about how the flushing system came to be. So when they first visited them, this person said 1 day or 2 days the flushing system will be installed, right? And then Mr. Bhatt said, I like flush and all that. And then they read the recommendation book, and then two Americans had been exceedingly warm and all that. And then in the end, he says before flush. So that's how the passage is arranged. It's quite hard, it's quite tricky, it's a very hard passage. So the pronoun it that has been marked in red signifies which of the following. So what's the answer for that?
So I feel
The
it's
hotel.
I'm sorry?
I feel it's A.
Option A, a sign that says before flush, a sign that says hotel livered, uh, prop flush system MS Butt. Okay, I think it's quite clearly not C and D. I think it's between A and B. Can you just try once more? Because before flush is not a sign at all. It's just something that Mr. Butt says, right? See, um, Mr. Butt showing us his still small sheet of recommendations in sitting room of the Livard Hotel and pointing to the group of photographs on the pea green wall had said with different emphasis before flush. So that's something he says. It's not a sign. That's the sign, right? Hotel Livard prop flush system MS Putt. The sign came later, almost at the end of our stay. So that's the sign we're talking about here.
So this basically the sign to enter the hotel wasn't there when these people got there.
Yeah, this sign that hotel reward prop
The one
plus system.
light bulbs is the one that we're talking about, sir.
Exactly, very good. Yes, the one with the light bulb. See, the
So why
sign
did we also say it's an unlikely amenity?
is an unlikely amenity because um, of, of probably where it's placed. I mean, and also the fact that they talk about the flushing, which is not what you, it's something you expect in a hotel, right?
Yes, sir. The reason I went with the before flush was only because he says it's an unlikely amenity. Because I thought it would be a likely amenity to have something like hotel livered as a sign. So
Yeah, but also and also okay, and also maybe the amenity is referred to the sign. I think because you can see it from the Shankaracharya hills.
okay,
So I think the unlikely amenity is yeah, it's the is a signboard.
okay, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So right. So um, right. So let's start with the next question. In which city, Indian city, do you think this scene might be set?
B Kashmir, sir.
Very good. Very good. I think it's quite obvious because of the apparel, right? The person is wearing a fur cap. It's hardly likely that they wear a fur cap in Kochi or Madras or Rajasthan. And also, the person is wearing a pullover, and also the Shankaracharya hill and the general appearance of some cold place, right? It's some kind of a cold place.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. I think that's a very clever answer. And how about free?
So coming
I
back
think
to
it's
the
B,
first
sir.
one,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
didn't quite get how it's P because dispelling conjecture, I think before flush makes it a more obvious answer for that one, right?
Yeah, but before flush is something this person says, right? Mr. Butt says that. It's not a sign.
Yeah, but then it says the sign,
Yeah,
which
it says the sign dispelling conjecture was placed high on the pitched roof and lit by three bulbs and could be seen from the Shankaracharya hill. So that's a sign, right? So it's
yeah, but
been lit by three.
how
Hmm.
can you say hotel levered prop flush system dispels conjecture?
The sign is dispelling conjecture because what can you make out of this? See, when you first read this passage, did you go completely blank as to what this meant? Because normally when you start with a passage, you
No, sir.
expect some kind of a. Did this seem normal to you to start reading a passage with that says hotel reward prop flush system MS part? Didn't it seem a little bit weird? Didn't you feel as though why is this here? Right? So just imagine, so you are at the Shankaracharya hills, and then you look down, and then you find this signboard with three light bulbs that says um, hotel reward, which is okay. It's still okay. And then you have prop flush system, MS part.
So
This
coming back to that, like dispelling conjecture basically means to make someone guess about something, right?
dispelling conjecture means it's impossible for you to hazard a conjecture, or
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
impossible for you to understand what's going on.
Yeah, so when you say, I think it makes sense because one of the next few
Yeah.
questions asks us what we think it means, what before flush means. So it's not very evident what is
No,
trying to.
before flush is something this person says. Look, when you look at, just imagine you're on a hill and you find a board that says this. Why wouldn't you be bewildered? Why do they use flush system on a board? So, I mean, if they stop with hotel reward, that's okay. But why would they talk about flush system? And that's a sign, right? So that's a sign that that's being talked about. It's a very tricky question. I accept, and I think we'll come back to this later. But I think before flush isn't a sign at all. It's something this person says. It's something. It's just that to trick you. It's something Mr. Butt says. It's not a sign. It's not a some kind of a billboard or anything like that. Okay, fine. So the blanks one and two may be filled up with which of the following words?
Yeah, I think it's B.
Above and below.
The rooms
Yes,
Okay.
sir,
between
it's B.
above and then the other was below.
Any other
Up and
answers?
down doesn't seem like a way to talk about rooms. That's why I didn't choose A.
Okay. Any other answers? I think up and down is not so obviously wrong, right? Why not up and down? I mean,
But above and below seems more appropriate, sir.
Sir, can it be D?
Yeah, it has to be.
D. What is D? A and B. Fine. Why not? Why not D?
So can we really use up and down for rooms? I don't know.
Why not? See, I'll just show you the real passage. I think you'll be surprised. I think it is up. It was actually up and down in the real passage. So I think up and down is okay, but it's not very frequently used. But I think up and down is not okay. It's not wrong. It can be up and down, or it can be, as you say, below. Or just a moment. I'll just find that. It can be up and down, or over and below. Let okay. One up. Okay. In fact, it says one room down and two up. Yeah, one room down and two up. I'll just show it to you. Can you see the book there? It's too small, is it?
I know, not small. It's quite blurry. Could you pinpoint at it, sir?
Yeah, I'm just using my hand to see if I can see one room down, one room down, one room up.
I can barely make it out, sir. But yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can kind of take a photo and give you a link or something like that. So it's actually up and down. That's what the real thing is. But I thought over and below wouldn't be wrong as well either. So I thought you could go with option D. Yeah, I think option D is okay. Okay, so I think option D. I think we'll stick to option D. I think it can be both. They both make sense, right? Okay, so yeah, not that. Yeah, A and B. It can be up and down or over and below. That is to say, two rooms up and two rooms down, or two rooms above and two rooms below. Two rooms over and two rooms under doesn't make much sense. Okay, fine. So which of the following statement or statements is or are true? Assume that the offer had stayed at the Hotel Reward for 2 weeks. What could the answer for that be?
Sir, I chose A.
2 and 4.
Yeah, even I choose D.
Okay, any other answer? Okay, let's see. Let's
I went with is B, right?
yeah. Who?
No, even I went
B.
with B.
Okay, so we have people going with B and A. Let's see. One, the flush system had been constructed in the Hotel Reward before the writer of this passage and his friends had been there. That's wrong, right? Because they say right here that the sign came later, and therefore we can presume. And also here, when they first met, when they first met, um, this person says that the flush system is going to be up in 1 or 2 days. So it wasn't installed while the writer was there. So one is wrong. Let's look at statement 2. The flush system was still being set up while the author and his friend and his party had visited hotel. That's true. It was still being set up. That's true, definitely. Let's look at 3. When Aziz had said 1 day, 2 days, he had lied. Again, that's true because we know that the author had stayed. That assumed that the author had stayed there for about 2 weeks, whereas this person Aziz had said that in 1 or 2 days the flush system will be ready, right? So that's a lie because it took them okay, no annotations, uh, right? So that's a lie, right? So 1 2, let's look at 4. The hotel was a rickety place. Rickety is not stable, wonky, shaky, right? It's not stable, derelict. So yes, I think that's a very good answer too. Fine. So we'll option B is right. Good. Okay. Let's look at question number 5. Why does Mr. Butt say before flush? That's again a very tricky question. Any answer for that?
So it's between A or D for me.
Between B or D, is it?
A or D.
Okay, between A or D. Between alphabet or duck. Okay, let's see. See, okay, I think we'll leave that question, and I think I'll leave it to you. You can try that later, but it's very tricky. It's very hard question. They say before flush, and then before that they just talk about the recommendations. So two Americans had been exceedingly warm, and an Indian lady had praised the hotel for providing the best tea she had ever tasted. Before flush, Mr. Butter said. So what does that mean? That means that the recommendations were that good even before the flush system was established, right? So
So,
Mr.
sir,
Butt,
can it be? Oh, sorry to
yeah.
interrupt.
Please go on. Please go on. Yeah,
So, can it be C?
yeah. C is
Yeah, even I marked C.
yeah, because the recommendations he was referring to were made before the flush. Yeah, very good. So I think it's C because see the whole idea here is that even before the flush system was established, they had such good recommendations, right? So that's what the person is trying to market, right? He's trying to tout his hotel. So I think that is what he's trying to do. They're trying to say that um, that even before the flush system was established, they had such good recommendations. So obviously now it's going to be even better, right? So very good. I think C is the right answer. Any doubts, you can come back to me later. Fine. So now we'll start with the second question. You can take 6 minutes. We'll start at 4:36. 4:38. Okay, 8 minutes. 4:38.
So I had one question. From a couple weeks, all that we've been doing is getting, the questions via a link.
Okay.
Compared to before when we actually used to get it in our mail. The thing is
Okay.
that if I wanted to go through the answers again or go through a class again, I could open up the mail, see the question
You can
again.
download the thing, right?
I
See,
don't
the
think so,
thing
sir,
is, yeah, you
because
can download it. You can go to the. I'll just tell you what. Just hold on. I'll just. You can just go there and you can download it. No problem. Wait. Hold on. Where's that? Yeah. So you can just go there, and you can go to file, and then I suppose you can download it. You can go to file and download it. Microsoft Word. You can download it.
okay, sir, sure. Thank
No
you.
problem. No problem. Sure. Okay. I think we'll start with again. It's quite hard. It's about 550 words. Um, okay. So we'll start with this. So who makes the statement the alleged primitiveness of a language was made the basis for value judgments about race that was presumed to speak this language that has been underlined in the passage. So here's the sentence. So who makes that statement? Is it yeah?
C. C.
Is it
C.
is it Helman Rajanayagam or is it
It's C, sir.
C.
C? A different source of the writer probably. Why do you say C? Because look, uh, so this person,
So I
uh,
marked B.
yeah,
I marked B.
B. Okay, let's see. B is the writer. It can't be B because it's in quote, right? It's in double quote. So it means that somebody else has said this, not the writer uh, themselves. So let's look at the previous statement. See here, I think somewhere here. So this religious revivalist movement objected to the construction of Tamilness based solely on language and asserted that, as Rajanayagam puts it, being a Tamil meant being Saivite and speaking Tamil, right? So here it's in quote, it's in double quote, and also this is something that this person says, Helman Rajanayagam says. She suggests that pre-existing. See, so this is some kind of a scholar. So she suggests that pre-existing cultural differences only became significant uh, ethno ethno-national boundary markers for a Tamil nation in the late 19th century. And then she finds that two competing constructions of Tamilness, one religious, one linguistic, etc., 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 and all that Western missionaries and Christian Tamils, and then all the Saivite movement and revivalism. And then here, I think she says, so she's some kind of a subject expert, right? And then so here, as you can see, so this, so here, so here, I think they've introduced it. They say as Rajanayagam puts it. So here, Rajanayagam is Helman Rajanayagam. She puts it. So I think it's quite obvious that a little later, after the, so that I think it's very likely to be something that she said, right? So because the same subject, the alleged primitiveness of a language was made the basis for value judgments about that race that was presumed to speak this language. So I think it's more likely to be the same person, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
the same person has been, because just one person has been mentioned. And also if it's, yeah, I think it's more likely to be that same person. So it's more likely to be Helman Rajanayagam.
So, but there's one thing. If
Yeah,
it's that person who's saying it, like if it's Hellman who's saying it, won't he like mention that she said it, or he would have at least used the pronoun like she? Here he just has polarizing assertions, I think. So
where?
it mean that it comes from somewhere else, somewhat of a polarizing person, like someone who
So
is.
polarized assertions about the origins. No, no, see, so that it's just that this sentence has been taken from this person's work, maybe, right? See, as Rajanayagam puts it, so she puts it. This person, Helman Rajanayagam, puts it somewhere. So she probably wrote it somewhere. So she finds that the two competing. So she probably wrote an essay, and maybe this essay is based on that essay. So this essay has inputs from that essay, possibly. And so this sentence has just been taken from that essay. So this polarized assertion has nothing to do with her views. It's just that this sentence has been picked from that essay. So that, and then the sentence. So the sentence has been picked from that essay. So it's not her views, not her personal views. Okay, let's look at question 7. So based on the passage, what can you infer to be the cause of cause of tension um, between the Tamil and the Sinhalese speaking population of Sri Lanka? The major cause.
Is it D?
Is it all of the above? The major cause, is it linguistic or is it racial or is it cultural? Any other answer?
Sir, it cannot be racial because they did not mention racial anywhere.
I think they do have talk about the relative statuses of the races, but it's not a very crucial point. You're right. Okay, any other answer?
Then it will be
I
linguistic.
marked A.
The most
Okay.
important.
Linguistic.
Okay, so this meant that it became increasingly difficult to acknowledge a common history and all that. So again, yeah, see, even here, that was presumed to speak this language simultaneously. Sinhalese and Tamil historical writings emphasize on. Okay, and yeah, I think it is linguistic because look, they talk about it in the order, right? So, but by the turn of the century, this is transformed by discussion of linguistic, racial, and cultural superiority, and all that. But it's primarily linguistic because look, the alleged primitiveness of a language was made the basis for value judgments about the race that was presumed to speak this language, right? That's what Hellman says. So this is the most important thing. So I think linguistic is the major cause. Everything else are kind of, I won't say incidental, but not as major as language. Okay, so 8. What role did the Western missionaries play in the present tension between the Tamil and Sinhalese speaking population of Sri Lanka? It may be a very indirect role, it may not be a direct role. Okay,
B.
let's see. Let's look at option A. They promoted a distinct Tamil identity, which was autonomous from South India. It's wrong, right? So they talk about the whole autonomousness here. So here they talk about how the book, whatever this book is, uh, a chronicle which had been written for the Dutch colonial administration in the early 18th century and was translated, etc., etc. And then, so they had a distinct Ceylon Tamil identity, which was relatively autonomous from South India, right? It got nothing to do with the missionaries, right? The missionaries, they only helped establish a distinctly Tamil identity. So they say that the Christian missionaries had realized the necessity of teaching in the vernacular in order to obtain converts. So they studied the Tamil language and classics, and they translated Christian texts into Tamil and fought the preconceived and fought the perceived degradation of the Tamil language and all that. So this linguistic construction of Tamilness allowed Saivite to convert, etc., without comprising, etc. However, there was also a religious revivalism and all that. But at the end of it, is that the upshot is that there was a strong sense of Tamilness solely on language and asserted that. So there was a strong sense of language, right? So they created a distinct sense of Tamilness. Very good. So B is a very likely answer. Let's look at C. They helped establish the Tamil historical right to exist as a community in the island. Again, that's wrong. Again, even that is something that this document does, right? This document. That's what that document does. It gives them the fact that this document that was written for the Dutch colonial administration, that's what it does. It gives them the idea that it gives them the idea of the history of the kingdom of Jaffna. Right, so it can't be that. They have the Tamils, they gave the Tamils, not they have, I'm sorry. They gave the Tamils a sense of racial and linguistic superiority over the Sinhalese. Even that is wrong. It's not talked about in the paragraph. So I think B is the most suitable answer. Okay, very good. Let's move on to question 9. Which of the following may not be inferred from the passage? Okay. Was it B? B for bucket?
C for cat.
C for cat. Okay. Any other answer? Okay, let's see. Let's look at option A. The segregation between the Sinhalese and the Tamil people is a very recent construction and not as ancient as the nationalist of each polity. Polity is a group, an organization, a state, or anything like that. Some kind of an organization, okay, will have us believe. That can be inferred, right? That's the very first line of this passage. They say that Nationalists portray their people as natural and permanent entities. Historical evidence suggests that they should be understood as relatively recent social and regional constructions, right? So that certainly can be inferred. How about B? The Christian missionaries helped revivify. Revivify is to strengthen. Revivify is strengthen. Strengthen. Okay, it means strengthen. Okay. The Christian missionaries helped revivify a sense of Tamilness among the Tamils of Sri Lanka. Yeah, even that is can be inferred. The Sinhalese are a largely Buddhist people. Again, yeah, that very good. That can't be inferred. Both the Sinhalese and the Tamils have contrived is achieved, have contrived in writing a distorted version of their history where they have been portrayed as arch enemies of each. Again, that can be mentioned. Very good, very good. So C is the right answer. Okay, the last question, and then we can go on to the next passage. Consider the statement. This was boosted by the administrative unification of the island from 1833. What is the pronoun this referred to here?
C.
Yeah?
C. Cat.
Okay, again cat. Any other answer?
So I
Let's.
have C2.
Okay, you said C, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Let's see. Let's see where they talk about this particular sentence here. This was boosted by the administrative of 1833. So they talk about that here, right? Yeah, they talk about that here, right? So this was boosted. So let's just go, because they use the pronoun this, that obviously means that something has been referred to before, right? So let's just look at the preceding line. So both the religious and the linguistic construction of Tamilness were characterized by its inclusion of Tamils in India. Okay. Okay. From the was characterized by its inclusion of Tamils in India. Okay. From the late 19th century, this changed markedly as a distinct Ceylon Tamil identity emerged. This was boosted by the administrative unification of the island from 1833, but was also facilitated by renewed interest in the history of Jaffna society, stimulated by colonial discourses on the origin of the Tamil language. Okay. So both the religious and the linguistic construction of Tamilness were characterized by its inclusion of Tamils in India. So from the 19th century, this changed markedly as a distinct Ceylon Tamil identity emerged. So this was boosted by the administrative. So the Ceylon Tamil identity was boosted, right? So let's look at the options. So let's see. Let's look at the options. So, renewed interest in the history of the Jaffna society stimulated by the colonial discourses. I don't think that that's a this. The Tamil language becoming the dominant boundary marker of Tamilness. I don't think that got much relevance. A distinct Ceylon identity is a very good answer. Yes. Let's look at D. The fact that being a Tamil means being a Saivite. Again, no relevance. I think C is the most suitable answer. Very good. I think that's okay.
So I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So if they ask us like the main idea of the passage, will it be like the first line in this case? Like,
The main idea of this passage, while the sceneries, yeah, I suppose it could be, but I think that the stress is on the Tamil people, right?
so what could it be, sir? Like what would you say is like the summary or the main idea of the passage?
I think the main idea is the fact that the conflict between the Tamil and the Sinhalese is very recent. Yeah, like you said, very good. The first line is very recent phenomena, and they're both trying to portray themselves as arch enemies, and it's of a fundamentally linguistic nature, right? So the conflict between the Tamil and the Sinhalese people is of a fundamentally linguistic nature.
Yeah, got it. Thank
I
you.
think that should be the central argument, I feel. Okay, very good. Thank you. So let's move on to the next passage. We'll take maybe 10 minutes. It's now 4:57. We start at 5:57.
Sir, can you send the link of this
Oh, I'm
sheet
sorry. I'm
again,
sorry.
sir? I lost it.
Sure. Just give me a moment.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm sending it to everyone. Yeah. Yeah, please download the files so that way you can access it later. Okay, I think we start with the first question now. So, which of the following statements, if true, is contrary to the ideas developed in the passage? Any answers? Do you want more time? 2 more minutes, maybe? Okay, any answers? Okay, let's go option by option. A. Women who use the lowest frequency of women's vocal traits have an unusually high status and are well-educated professionals with middle-class backgrounds. That's not contrary, right? So the whole idea here is that we get our idea of decorum and decency from the fact that the male voice, which is of a constant pitch and of a lower frequency and um, which has a vocal fry, right, and a lower frequency, low pitch, assertive demeanor. What does demeanor mean? uh, Deportment or personality, right? Assertive personality. These are the ones who make it. So, and women's voices are higher pitched or higher frequencies, like those immature boys, and their characteristic speech patterns have a distinctive cadence that exhibits a wider range of emotional expression. And in Western culture, this is bad because it comes across as uncontrolled. We associate uncontrolled speech, the cry, the grunt, the scream, and the yelp, with things that happen in private domestic spheres. Okay, so that's what the whole central argument is, which also follows the center of the passage, right? So this is not really against, not contrary to the ideas developed in the passage. Let's move on to the next option. Option B: women who use the lowest frequency of. Okay, okay, hold on. Women in their communicative behavior are said to prefer high involvement style. I think we just looked at that option, so that's wrong. Let's look at option A now. Women in their communicative behavior are said to prefer high involvement style, and men a high considerate style. That's not really contrary, but um, it's not really what they're what they're trying to say, right? What they're trying to say is that there isn't much of a difference between high involvement and high consideration. They're both two sides of the same coin, right? So, but it's not contrary. We have it in the pipeline. We can't rule A out. A may be wrong, but just a moment. But B is definitely wrong. B is definitely wrong. Okay, let's look at C. In certain hierarchically organized Indian political parties, women can participate in discussions as long as they appeal, persuade, and support others and not initiate new ones. Again, this is not contrary to the main ideas. The main idea is uh, this is the main idea, right? This implies that the ideology of sexism is much more insidious. What does insidious mean? Pernicious, more central, more pervasive, right? Much more deeply ingrained than many might suppose. So, C again is a consequence of sexism. So, I don't think that is really contrary to the it's not contrary to the ideas developed in the passage. So it's not the answer. B and C are wrong. Let's look at D. The linguistic ideology in vogue in ancient North India allowed only men of higher castes and ruling dynasties to to use Sanskrit. Women and servants spoke Prakrit or Pali. Again, that's the whole idea of the passage. So A is so far the best candidate. Let's look at E. Students show that studies show that male followers of powerful women political leaders in Indian states imitate their leaders' cadence, rhetoric, and rhythm. Okay, I think that is a very strong contestant because what this option is trying to suggest is that whoever gets power will be imitated. If you have a male in power, then the male is going to set the norms. So you have, like they say here, right? So you have um, low pitch assertive demeanor becomes a no. And if you have a woman in power, then they say that even male followers of powerful women political leaders. This is a hypothetical scenario. It need not be. I don't think this ever happens in reality. At least we haven't seen it happening. But it's a hypothetical scenario, which is why they say if true, right? So you should. It's like a logical reasoning like question. So I feel that this is a very good candidate, and between A and E, I feel that E is more appropriate. I think E is the answer for this. Quite tricky. Okay. An American female. This is a kind of a bogus question, but in your examination, you can expect questions like this. They're kind of bogus and not very well set. Okay, an American female politician might not be expected to exhibit the features of public discourse discussed in the passage while doing what? I think you can think of it as a you can tackle it in an odd man out kind of a thing. Addressing her colleagues, chatting with her intimate colleagues, speaking to members of a congregation, giving testimony, conversing with members of a community. I think that A, C, D, E fall under one category. Slightly more formal. Chatting with intimate colleagues is less formal, so maybe that's the answer they're looking for. It's an odd man out. It doesn't make very much sense. I mean, this is true with anybody, right? Nobody talks in a formal way while addressing um, your intimate colleagues. I don't see why that's specific to an American female politician, but in your exam you could expect questions like this. So be prepared. And I think that the answer is B. Be clever. Look at the odd man out. A, C, D, E are of, you could put them to one set. You can group them into one set, whereas B is clearly an odd man out. Okay. So 13. Which of the following, if true, would make the core argument of the passage irrelevant?
E, sir.
E, sir.
E for elephant?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any other answers?
E, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. Very good. Let's see. Which of the following, if true, would make the core argument irrelevant, right? Irrelevant. So what is the core argument? Like I said, the core argument is that center, right? The fact that we are looking for people who have a low pitch voice and an assertive demeanor. I can't find that right now. So low pitch voice and assertive demeanor, right? So somehow that characterize a male voice, control and authority suitable for public domain. And therefore we tend to think that this is the only criteria for suitability. And that's a mistake, right? That's the central argument of this passage. So let's go option by option. Men seek to gain upper hand in conversation as they consider themselves competitive, while women use them as a way to gain confirmation and support. That doesn't make it irrelevant. It doesn't contribute to the central argument, but it doesn't do anything to the central argument, right? It does not affect the central argument. So I don't think that A is a suitable answer. Let's look at B. When a wife tells her husband that she's unwell, he normally offers to take her to a doctor. Invariably, she is disappointed, as what she looks for is sympathy. I think that's again just some stupid bogus option. It makes no sense, no relevance. Let's look at C. Unlike men who use and prefer to hear direct imperatives, women use indirections. So I don't see what that's. Does it make it irrelevant? Okay, we can't rule that out, but so what they say here is that men offer imperatives, meaning that they make straightforward statements, whereas women are they say that they probably, I think by indirection they mean prevarication. I don't know. Prevarication is beat about the bush. Maybe that's what they're trying to say. I don't know what they're trying to say. So C is I don't think that it's makes it irrelevant, but we'll have seen the pipeline. I think because it's so stupid that it may make it irrelevant. I don't know. But in that case, even B could be a good candidate because B and C are equally stupid, but we don't know. Okay, so where a management decision seems unattractive, men will often resist it vocally, while women may appear to accede, but complain subsequently. Okay, I think that all of them are equally stupid, but they don't make the core argument irrelevant. Let's look at E. Today, sharing of emotions and elaborations is more important than sharing information and being brief. Yeah, I think that is a very good candidate because if that is true, then the whole idea that women tend to be more tend to emote more strongly and uh, the things that Western culture says bad, right? The things that women's voices have are of a higher pitch uh, and their characteristic speech pattern have a distinctive cadence that all that stuff, right? That in Western culture is bad because it comes across as uncontrolled. All that is good. I think that would make the core argument irrelevant. Yeah, very good. So I think that's a very good answer. E is a very suitable answer. From the context of the passage, what can you make out about the meaning of the phrases vocal fry and upspeak? The various registers or tones of speech. Vocal fry and upspeak refers to speech that is considered haughty and polite. Haughty and impolite, right? Haughty is arrogant. Haughty and impolite. I think I confused you with that. Okay, you can try it now. Haughty and impolite. I'm very sorry. Haughty and impolite. Or is it A and B or is it neither A or B? So what do you think an answer could be? So take your time and look at where the phrase vocal fry and upspeak are used. They at the start they say lately it seems everyone's got an opinion about women's speech. Everybody has been getting his two cents in about vocal fry, upspeak, and women's allegedly over liberal use of apologies. Because they talk about women's allegedly over liberal use of apologies, it can't be haughty, right? Because they wouldn't go in the same line, I think. If vocal fry and upspeak meant haughty, how can you have about okay, so it's quite tricky. Vocal fry, upspeak, and women's allegedly over liberal use of apologies. Okay, we don't know. Let's see. Let's see. So it's either it can't be both A and B, right? How can it be both? How can it be the various registers or tones of speech? I think because the whole passage revolves around tones of speeches. They talk about the lower pitches of men and the higher pitches of women, the cadences, all that. I think that A is a more suitable guess. A is a better guess, maybe. Do you think that there are various registers, or register is a range of frequencies? So I think that's a more viable answer. Okay, I think between A and B, A is more suitable. Okay, how about 15? Which of the following is not analogous in any way to the central argument of the passage? How about that?
Is it D, sir?
D. Let's see. Let's go option by option. Many writers from marginalized communities feel that it is impossible for them to write with the same eloquence of the writers of the mainstream because they are dealing with experiences, emotions that are not generally dealt with by the writers of the mainstream. I think that's a very good analogy, right? So because here they talk about here, right? The ways women live and move in the world are subject to relentless scrutiny. Their modes of speech are assessed against the usually masculine standard. So the whole idea of standard, right? So just because it's old, you have an old standard, and people aren't willing to be resilient to change. So let's look at, yeah, I think A is a very suitable answer. Let's look at B. In America, where there is a very pertinent race problem, people of color hardly make it to the top of the corporate ladder. Therefore, a person of color, even of a lesser efficiency, must be given preference to his Caucasian counterpart. Caucasian is European, white counterpart in fields that are less crucial. I'm not very convinced with this option because of lesser efficiency. It doesn't seem to be very right, and therefore both A and B are wrong. Let's look at E. As a teacher, I have to identify students who need more attention in the subject that I teach and provide them with the same so that they are brought on par with the rest of the class. Um, Providing equal attention to all, therefore, is not a very effective idea. Okay, so now what do you think an answer could be? Between A and D, what do you think is more suitable?
D, because like the question is which is not analogous, right?
Okay.
That's why I think it's D. Because the first two, it's like.
Okay, so between B and D then.
Yeah, even I marked it as D.
Okay, between B and D, what could be more suitable?
So I think it's not A and B because like both of them are based on like inherent biases, and the whole passage also is based on the bias. You know, the male versus female bias, and in A it's like rural versus urban, and in B it's about like race. That's why D is based on like an actual problem that's like some people are not able to cope up. So that's the reason that it's
Okay,
not.
suppose I got this knot out and make it analogous, then what?
Then I'd go with C, so like both A and B.
Okay. Right, how about the rest of us?
If it was analogous, I would go with C.
Okay, in that case, why don't you go with why is D wrong then? Look, you have to take into consideration the idea of structural advantage. That is the whole idea here. The idea of structural advantage. It's not efficiency. It's not talent. It's structural advantage. The fact that they talk here about the whole idea here is uh, the standard, the setting of standard, the fact that the standards have been set and whether or not they are stupid, they have been carried on. So the idea of what they call structural advantage, right? So the fact that that's the whole idea of the passage here, right? So the whole idea that we tend to think that the low pitch and assertive demeanor that characterizes, we think that this is the only thing that's suitable for public domain, and therefore, see, that's the first sentence here in the essay on speech and public release. This person, Joanne Gunn, she says that ideological bias against a feminine voice. A bias, so we're thinking of bias, we're talking about bias, not efficiency, but bias, right? That is rooted in positive primal associations with masculinity and the corresponding devaluation of femininity, the voice that constrains and nags, the mother, the droning Charlie Brown. What is Charlie Brown? It's a cartoon character who's a bit of a loser, right? A school teacher like me. Okay, and Gun contends that is the cultural standard, right? So we're talking about structural advantages here. We're talking about the idea that certain ideas have been ingrained in our psyche, right? So we're talking about structural advantages here, not efficiency. We're not talking about the fact that some people need quota, right? We're talking about the fact that structural advantage has made it hard for some people, even though they may be more deserving. So here, many writers from marginalized communities. What does marginalized communities mean? It could be so many things. Communities that are not a part of, that have not been celebrated by the mainstream, right? So many writers from marginalized communities feel that it is impossible for them to write with the same eloquence. Meaning, eloquence here could be interpreted again as low pitch, assertiveness, right, of the writers of the mainstream, because they are dealing with experiences, emotions that are not generally dealt with by the mainstream. Now, this sentence gives me has a hint of uh, there being a structural standard, a structural standard being there, right? The rest of them are there just to kind of distract you, because here again they say that in America, even of a lesser efficiency. So nowhere in this passage do they talk about lesser efficiency. That is probably your interpretation. Nowhere do they talk about lesser efficiency, and nowhere do they talk about the same for the same reason here, right? And provide so that they are brought on par. Nowhere are we talking about bringing on par. The whole idea is that there is uh, a structural imbalance in the way we perceive uh, the voice of the masculine and the feminine. Therefore, there's no question of bringing on power. So, if it had been is analogous, this is the only thing that's analogous. So, all the others are not analogous. So, there could have been just a moment. I think there are people trying to get in. Okay. So all the others are not analogous. I think that this is the only thing that's analogous. So I think that it could be both C and D. So maybe we should have just stopped with this option. Or maybe we should have, this could have been C and B could have been B, C, and D. I think all these are not going to be the answers. So that's the only analogy that I could think of. Okay, let's move on to 5. I think before we do 5, I think we'll do the last one, because I think last one is a little bit more less dry. I think all the ones have been so dry. I think we'll do 5. 5 is quite simple too. And after 5, I think we'll come back to 4. Please do 5. Do we start? Or do you want 2 more minutes?
Yes, sir, we can start.
Okay, I think we'll just give it another minute. I think this is slightly simpler. Okay, so we'll finish this and then we'll do the next question. So, what can be said most assertively about this person? Uh, just a moment. We'll. Okay. I think. Okay. So, what can be said most assertively about Okunbu, Omakaro? I think it's quite straightforward, right? They talk about this person here, so their spokesperson. So, yeah. So, what's the answer for that?
B, sir.
B.
Yeah, very good. So, I think that's quite straightforward. He's a spokesperson of the protesters against SARS because that's what the word is. Very good. Why do the protesters feel SARS is so dangerous for them?
Can it be D? D as in dog.
This one is it? Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Thank you. Let's see. Um, why do the protesters feel SARS is so dangerous for them? Because it makes people second-class citizens in their own country. That I think one of the placards. Because it could charge exorbitant bail money from arrested convicts. Even that has been mentioned, I'm sure. Because it could randomly arrest people. Even that has been mentioned, I feel. Because it seems to affect young people more directly. Yeah, I think D is more suitable. Although we don't know why it affects young people, right? But somehow we do get the feeling that from what this person says, this precious or okay, she says, I am putting it to the authorities that if they don't scrap SARS, then they are saying they should have been then what they are saying. Okay, they are in support of the evils SARS have been doing. These men go around and pick boys and girls randomly and bail that is supposed to be free. They collect hundreds of thousands from them. So that's probably some. Okay, so that is the sentence there. So the idea is boys and girls. So I don't know. It's like why would they do that, right? So it probably is. It seems to affect young people more directly. So I think it has to be option D. Let's look at 23. The most suitable synonym for the underlined word scamper is. So here they talk about scamper. Examination they may not underline the word. They may not even mark the word. I think last time they didn't do that. They didn't. They asked you for words and they didn't mark the words. But so I think it's better you go through the question before you start reading the passage. So the incident also led to the destruction of several cars and all that sort of thing, and commuters, etc., and scampered. So for safety. So what could the answer be? Could it be frolic? I don't think so. Could it be silent? Could it be? And because it can't be frolic. Frolic is to kind of enjoy, right? Enjoy or move with a dance, right? Scamper could mean frolic. Generally speaking, scamper could mean frolic because scamper literally means to move like a rat or to move like a small animal, to take little steps and move, to move like a child with small steps. That's what scamper means. So here, what does scamper mean? Let's see. So A is wrong, therefore C is wrong. It could be B or D. Sidle is to move very carefully, is to move sideways. That's why they have it's called sidle. Sidle is to move. Suppose you're moving through a narrow space, there isn't enough space for you to um, move, um, take a straight path. Then you would kind of move in with the shoulders first, right? So it's move in a shoulder first kind of a way. In a secretive way, I think you could say secretive. I think sidle could mean secretive too. Um, so to walk in a furtive, unobtrusive, and timid manner. That's what Google says. That's what the online dictionary says. Um, it says to walk in a furtive, unobtrusive or timid manner, especially sideways or obliquely. Obliquely, yeah. Obliquely is the word I'm looking for. Obliquely is not perpendicularly, but to move with shoulder first or arm first. Furtive is secretive. Furtive means secretive. To do something in a way that nobody is able to observe you. Unobtrusive is not attracting attention, right? That's what that word means, unobtrusive. So I think it could be that. So I think that B is okay. I think B could be the answer. Okay. So what can be said most assertively about SARS? It is a bill that corrects violent activities like murder and robbery, and it is indiscriminate as to whom it arrests. You can't rule that out. It's a tax bill that demands exorbitant tax, not very directly inferable. Between A and B, I'd go for A. It is an education policy bill that denies student scholarships and demands high fees. Again, it can't be ruled out, but whatever SARS is, it's got something to do with the fact that men go around and pick boys and girls randomly, and bail that is supposed to be free, they collect hundreds and thousands of naira for them, right? So it's something to do with that. Because see, if they support SARS, if they also support this, right? So I don't think that that is a very good answer. It's a bill that to limit internet usage by youngsters. I think that A is the most suitable answer, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay. So from the passage, who can you infer instigated the violence?
D, sir.
I'm sorry?
Is it D?
Cannot be inferred. Let us see. See, they say here that some inspector and all that, and then the protest, however, turned bloody at some place, junction, where the protesters were resisted by a mobile police team. And then they go on to say that Daily Sun, oh, it says my net is unstable. So I have my phone on. So in case something happens, in case my network fails, I'll don't panic. I'll probably just log out and log in again. We have a backup network, so just give me a moment. I'll just turn my mobile phone hotspot stuff on. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So and then here they say that the incident also led to destruction of a large scale, and a policeman was reportedly shot dead, not shot dead, right? They've been shot dead by an unidentified youth. The incident also led to the destruction of several cars as commuters along the east-west road of auto or whatever scampered and all that. Fine. So Delta, so they said that the report was of confrontation was still under investigation. However, another police source confirmed under the condition of anonymity. Meaning, what does anonymity mean? It means that they don't want to be named. That several cars were damaged following the pandemonium that ensued as the protesters opened fire on the police team, leading to the death of a police corporal. And even here, you can infer from this passage that the protests were initially quiet, right? So there were hundreds of you from on the platform and all that was quiet. And then the protest went sour when a group arrived at the state headquarters of the state police command and attempted to prevent a police van from entering the premise. I suppose you could kind of put it about that it was the protesters who instigated the protest, the violence. The violence, not the protest, the violence in this particular case that led to the death of policemen and all that.
Like, violence doesn't mean only the death, right? It can be like what happened before the death also.
Right, yeah, right. It could be that. But also, how about the fact that, yeah, I think that's a very good point. Yes. But how about the fact that the protest went sour when the group arrived at the state headquarters of and attempted to prevent a police van from entering the premise?
Yeah, so there also it could be the police that first started, right? They didn't say that.
Yeah, but could that be seen as instigation, the fact that you're preventing a police van from entering the premise?
Yeah, so but then that's still not violence, right? Like they're asking who
Yeah,
started the violence.
I see your point. I see your point. It's a very genuine point. But I think that the question is who instigated the violence? And instigation need not be who acted first, but okay, fine. I see your point. But still, here, instigation is what caused the first blow to Mark, And also, they say here that they opened fire on the policeman, you know. They report that, I mean, from this passage, we don't know what the truth is. You're absolutely right. From the tone of the passage, the fact that the incident led to the destruction of several cars and commuters, and um, and then they also opened fire on the police team, leading to the death of a yeah. So the fact that they opened fire, whereas they don't talk about the police open firing at anyone. There's absolutely no mention about that, right? So they only say that the protesters kind of tried to prevent the policemen from, and then the things turned sour when. So I think that from this passage, from the tone, I think that somehow you feel that A is more appropriate. But as you say, nothing can be said for sure. But I think that A seems to be the more uh, likely option here. Okay, so let's quickly go to the last passage. It's very short, but it's a very hard passage. And it could take some time. But just try and see if you can do it. It's quite straightforward. It may seem to be, full of highfalutin stuff, but it's not. It's very simple. So what is can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you now. It wasn't
Now,
audible.
Okay, at what point did you lose me? Uh, could you get the last question? Hello?
Yes, sir, like we were just discussing like the last thing.
Okay, fine. Thank God for that. Okay, so could you please do question number 4?
So one more thing about the last one.
Yeah. Tell me, yes.
In the starting, they say that the police like resisted the protesters, and then that also caused violence. So it also says that the police are part of the violence, right?
Let's see. The police resisted the. Just a moment. Okay, so they say that. See, they only say that. Look, let's see. They only say that. Where were we? Yeah. So see. To prevent the protest from being carried out. And the protesters were reported to have taken the streets yesterday. Okay, and the protest, however, turned bloody when the protesters were resisted by a mobile. Okay, fine, maybe okay, right. So the turn when the protesters were resisted. Fine, very good. Okay, so nothing can be said. Yeah, I think right. Okay, I think that's a tricky question, um, but how about the fact that they've opened fire on the police? Whereas they don't talk about the fact that the police have fired at them. Maybe that's a very good statement. I think that the police were just there. I mean, kind of see. They say that the protest turned bloody when the protesters were resisted by a mobile, but we still don't know who caused the violence. They still don't talk about the police firing at the protesters. There's not a single statement that says that the police in any way caused any harm to the protesters, right?
Okay, so yeah, got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very genuine argument. Fine. So let's just finish 4 and Okay, have you all read the passage? Okay, we'll take 2 minutes. There's no hurry. Okay, do we start?
Yes, sir.
Do you want 1 more minute maybe? It's 6:03. Do we start at 6:05?
So we can start.
Okay. Right. I think we start. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's not as hard as it seems. I know they use words like segmentation, which don't really feel very familiar, but just look at the question. Okay, so most top-notch business consultants recommended changing the entire configuration of an organization strategy, structure, and systems. If the ideas contained in the passage are agreed to, then such a recommendation would do what? Okay, it tends to. So, what do they talk about? Changing an entire configuration. See, they talk here about the central argument holds that inertia derives from the very characteristics that make organizations favored actors in modern society in terms of reliability and formal accountability. It follows that changes in organizations' core features are disruptive and increase mortality hazards, at least in the short run. Okay, research research on this subject tend to support this view. That's the that's what that's that you should look into. So what this statement says is that most top-notch business consultants recommend changing the entire configuration of an organization's strategy, structure, and systems. If the ideas contained in the patches are agreed to, then such a recommendation would definitely add to the mortality hazards, right? Increase mortality hazards. It's disruptive. It's inimical, dangerous. Let's see. It tends to rejuvenate. Rejuvenate is to improve. No, I think A is wrong. Tends to make the organization more aligned to the external environment. I think that they use the word external environment in the patches, and so they're just trying to deceive you. B is wrong. Let's look at C. Tend to increase the competitiveness of the organization by redefining its core competence. Tends to increase the competitiveness. I don't think that that is true. I think if it had been decrease of competitiveness, then that's a viable option. This is wrong. Tends to increase the vulnerability of the organization. I think that's okay. Tends to make the organization industry leader by reformulating its niche. Again, this is using the word niche here because the word niche has been used in the passage. I think that D is the most suitable answer. Are you all okay with that?
Yes.
Any doubts with D? D for dog.
No.
Okay, let's move on to question number 17. Again, it's a very simple question. Consider the following. Tata Steel, one of the biggest steel makers in the world, was born in Jamshedpur. If above passage is true, if the above passage is true, then it can be concluded that uh, the location of Tata Steel has been one of the reasons for its success. Okay, so statement one is the conclusion is false. That's not right? See, they say here that there is evidence of an imprinting process, meaning that the environmental conditions at certain early phases of an organization's development have long-term consequences. Okay, so here they mean that the early phases of in an organization's development have long-term consequences, right? So the conclusion is false. Two, this is a far-fetched conclusion. This is a valid conclusion. I think that this is the only thing true. I think that C only is the right answer. C is the answer. Are we okay with that? Any doubts with that?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, fine. Let's look at Tata Steel. Tata Steel, one of the biggest steel makers in the world, was born in Japan. Okay, I'm sorry, you just did that now. Very sorry. Okay. So recently it has been. Oh, hold on. No, okay, we didn't do that. Okay. Tata Steel, one of the biggest steel makers in the world, was born in Jamshedpur. The very success of Tata Steel could lead to its failure in the future, and hence the challenge of Tata Steel is to recognize its strengths and that made it successful in its initial conditions and stick to them. Okay, that's valid. This is a valid statement. Yes, it's valid. It's perfectly valid. The conclusion is contrary to the ideas described in the passage. It's not contrary. So what they say is that if you expand your company, there is the larger your competitors, uh, the more the competition you have, the more the chances of mortality hazards. Right? They say that they respond slowly, and they say that more competition is not necessarily a very good thing. It could be bad too. It's not necessarily going to help your industry. So I think that it certainly is very valid. It's not contrary. The conclusion is an internally is internally contradictory, not an internally contradictory, because contradictory is an adjective. The conclusion is internally contradictory. I don't think it's internally contradictory at all. It's perfectly. It makes sense. See, the idea is that they could become large, and becoming too large, they could collapse. Okay, I think that A is the right answer. Okay. So recently it was reported that Indian textile sector wasn't doing well. If the ideas contained in the passage are agreed to, okay, agreed upon would have been better, then which of the following could be a possible reason? Okay. Okay, the possible reasons. Let's see. All Indian firms are as old as international firms. Bogus, right? You can see that the examiner is just playing the fool with you. Two, Indian textile firms are all dispersed all over the country, with most of them also having international presence. Now, that's not bogus, because here they say that having a niche. What does niche mean? It means that having a small market instead of trying to cater to a large market. If you are able to cater to a niche market, then you could have a larger stability. That's what the passage says. So what happened? So what happens when you're dispersed across a large, when you're dispersed across all over the country, with most of them also having international presence? It means that you aren't addressing to a niche market. It also means that you're increasing your competitors, which means that it could add to your mortality hazards. So I think that this is certainly wrong. I mean, if the idea is contained, uh, then I don't think that this could be an explanation as to why the Indian textile sector wasn't doing well. So that's a good answer. Let's look at three. Textile firms were subjected to trade union activity in the period from 1960 to 1980. I don't think that they talk about trade union at all here, right? I think that two alone, and also two and three isn't an answer. So I think that C is the right answer here. Okay, the last question in the underlined line. Okay, underlined line sounds funny. There may be a mistake. Identify the uh, portion of the line where the mistake exists, if it exists. That's the line. So most research in this field builds on theories of resource partitioning and of density dependence. Resource partitioning theory concerns the relationship between increasing market concentration and increasing proliferation of specialists in mature industries. Okay, the mistake is here, right? Most research in this field builds. Is it builds or is it build?
Build, with an S.
Is it most research in this field builds, because research is to be treated as singular because it's a collective noun, even though it's talking about a lot of individual researches, because they're all performing in unison, you could say builds. Most research in this field builds on theories of resource partition and of all that, blah, blah, blah. So I think that the mistake is with one. So option A is the right answer. Okay, fine. So I think we'll stop here. And I think that for RC, so far as RC is concerned, you don't have to take extra effort just to what we're doing in class, and also maybe one, I think you'll soon have your modules put up. So maybe if you can do one question a day, that's more than enough. Maybe you can focus on the GK part and the rest of it. So, and if in the last exam, if you couldn't do well, don't get perturbed. It's just your first mock test, and there are plenty of exams to come. Yes, so don't be worried, and yeah, work on the GK and the other stuff. So okay, so good luck and goodbye, good night.
Good
Thank you,
evening
sir.
and thank you, sir.
Thank you, bye, all the best.